Alright folks, today I'm going to go over how to weigh your food. So some people might think it's kind of weird that I actually measure out like the number of chips that I eat. And so I know that one serving of chips is about an ounce or about 16 chips. And it's one of those things that, it's being willing to do things that other people aren't, to be able to achieve things that other people aren't willing to do. And so weighing your food, I think, is really important to understand kind of how much you actually should be eating versus what you want to be eating or what you are not eating enough of. So I guarantee you, most of you aren't getting enough protein to support supporting lean body mass and supporting your strength gains. And so today we're gonna go over how to measure like a piece of steak. So I have a good piece of ribeye right here. And then we're just going to go through some steps to understand what's a decent size for a steak. I know for me, most of my meals, it's going to be around about 5 ounces. And so I'm going to try to get the steak down to about 5 ounces, and then we'll go from there. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to look at this food scale. You can pick up any type of food scales like this, like for like 20 bucks at your local store. So I'm going to turn it on. And the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to place a plate, just a paper plate over it. That way we don't have to wash anything. We just throw this plate away later. And the plate weighs by itself 3/4 ounces. And so I want to tear this plate off so that I can zero the scale again. So I'm just going to hold this. And now we're at 0. So now that I know that any food that I put on this plate, it's going to measure the weight of that piece of food. And so I'm just going to stab this ribeye. Try to do this with one hand, and then boom. So this piece of ribeye right here is 8.5 ounces, and I could totally kill that in a serving, but I know that for my meals, I only need about 5 ounces, especially if I'm eating 3 meals a day, plus my snacks and my shakes in between. And so I'm just gonna trim off a little bit of this, and that way I can save it for later if I want some more. Cool. Okay, so I went ahead and just trimmed off a few pieces off of that ribeye, and now I have 5 ounces. So you don't have to be exactly on the mark for your ounces. It matters what you input into your food app tracker, and I'll send another video on that for another day. But just shows you that this is more of a proper size portion for most average people. So if you look at this piece of ribeye, it's approximately about the size of my palm, and that's a more adequate kind of portion size if you're eating at least 3 meals a day plus your snacks. A lot of people end up overeating, and I'll go over that in a little bit here. All right, so talking about overeating, that's a big problem because our brains are wired to love this type of food. It's wired to find these foods that are maybe fatty or salty or high in carbohydrates or high in sugar, because our brains are telling our body to seek out these foods that are high in calories because it's part of our survival mechanisms. And so if we don't have another way to kind of deal with how to control the portions coming into us, we end up with this obesity epidemic that we have in our country, is that people are constantly eating and there's no mechanism to actually stop them. And so by measuring your food, you can actually tell how much you actually should be eating versus, again, what you want to be eating, or versus if you're not eating enough, which is another problem in itself. All right, so pick up a food scale for yourself. It's really easy to do, and then once you measure for a while, it's really easy to gauge what your portion size is to be, so that the next time you go to a restaurant, you can see what's on your plate and know that, hey, you should be probably maybe cutting that portion off in half and just packing that other half to go, and you can save that for a whole nother meal. Cool. So hopefully this helps you out, and if you have any questions, just post it up in the comments, and we'll answer them right there. Thanks.